It wasn't recorded? Yes, it was. Oh, nice. Can we sit? Can we get the links out?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Only when we're good.
Okay, we're good.
Okay. So everybody, Baruch Hashem, with Hashem's loving kindness, we're together, thank God, on the Hilula of Moshe Rabbeinu. Yeah, for sure. This should be a refuah shlema for Shmuel Zalman ben Chana.
Amen.
Full healing.
Amen.
Someone who has the type of Mesirat Nefesh that it looked like Moshe Rabbeinu had, and it's unbelievable. I think we take for granted the type of impact that even Moshe had. We know that Moshe Rabbeinu is the one who gave us the Torah, but I don't even think that we realize how much that our connection to Hashem is revolved around this one person. That if not for this figure who self-sacrificed his whole life for those around him to the extent that he didn't exist, is the cause of, for thousands and thousands of years, us having any type of connection to Hashem. It's explained in Chassidut that there's, so to speak, three types of da'at. There's three types of knowing. And there are three different leaders who had these three different types of knowing. We're going to speak about one of them today besides the one we're going to say right now. But the da'at that Moshe Rabbeinu had that nobody else had was the da'at to know Hashem. Was the ability for a human being to actually know Hashem. This was the chidush of Moshe Rabbeinu. There was no such thing beside Moshe. Before Moshe, to know Hashem, that a human being can come down into this physical world, be surrounded with all the things that we're surrounded by. And Moshe had a special koach called da'at, that he was able to give over to the Jewish people, that we should know Hashem. Like it says, to know Hashem in all your ways, not just to know Hashem, let's say, when I'm learning Torah, not just to know Hashem when I am praying and davening, but to know Hashem when I'm eating, to know Hashem when I'm drinking, to know Hashem while I'm playing ball with my friends, that you can know Hashem in everything that you do. This was the chidush of Moshe Rabbeinu. In fact, Moshe, according to Chazal, is compared to be equal to all of the Jewish people combined. Wow. Now, it's hard to understand this. How could one person be compared to all of the Jewish people in all of history? And one of the deeper reasons is because Moshe Rabbeinu is the mother of the Jewish people. According to Kabbalah and Chassidut, it was actually his soul that, so to speak, broke up into many different pieces and gave birth to the souls of all the Jewish people. And this is the reason why Moshe said to Hashem, am I their mother? Did I nurse them? And the reason, says Chassidut, that he said that is because he is. And that was the reason he said that. So we not only owe a lot to Moshe Rabbeinu, but in fact, our essence is him. The godly soul of every single Jew is called Moshe. Now, if you flip the name Moshe around, you get Hashem. You get Hashem. And what does the name Moshe mean? Moshe means to be drawn out of the water. To be drawn out of the water. Now, the way that we usually think about it is that Moshe was drawn out of the water. Another way to understand it is that Moshe draws us into the water. The reason his name is Moshe is because he draws everybody into the water. And what's the water? The Torah. The ability to know Hashem, to connect to Hashem, that he brings us in these holy waters. The mikveh. He brings us all in the mikveh. Like Batya, what was her first experience with Moshe Rabbeinu? She's going to the mikveh. Why? Because of Moshe. That's the whole connection. Moshe is the mikveh. And now we have, many generations later, our Rebbe that we follow, the one who gives us all of our wisdom, the one who gives us all of our advice, the one who gives us all of our inspiration and encouragement and strength, literally the shoulders that we walk upon and we live with. That is Rabbi Nachman ben Fega, who you could see many parallels between the levels of self-sacrifice the ability, so to speak, to completely nullify all aspects of yesh, physicality, in order that you should connect to Hashem at the expense of anything else. The leadership, the ability to lead so many different types of people, that you could have one person who has been learning his whole entire life and feels parched for something more and opens up a sefer of Moshe Rabbeinu, or sorry to say, Rabbi Nachman, and all of a sudden his soul goes on fire. And you have another guy who's in a substance abuse clinic, 2021, who hears about Hibodedut, and all of a sudden he's lit up. You have another Ashkenazi person who went to concerts growing up, and he was used to, so to speak, experimenting with different types of substances and activities. And he grew up completely divorced from any type of spirituality whatsoever. And he also gets lit up. And then you go to Uman, and then you see every single type of person in the world in a little tiny street getting lit up by Rabbi Nachman. And through all the Torahs of Rabbi Nachman, you could see how much that he admired him, how much that he emulated him. And tonight, Baruch Hashem, we get to actually learn the Torah of Rabbi Nachman. And it has to do with Moshe tonight. So it's very hashgacha pratit. And we're going into Purim, which we know that really the whole inyan of Purim is Moshe. The whole reason it started was Moshe. The whole reason it ended, we're going to learn tonight, was also Moshe. That despite the fact that Haman felt that because Moshe had passed away tonight, and therefore we had no koach in Adar. However, it's a living testimony to the fact that when tzaddikim pass away, they don't leave, that they're still here. And it was the koach of Moshe Rabbeinu that we're going to learn tonight actually is what caused us to move out of that place, not only having survived, but receiving the Torah from love in a way we never had before. So now, what we've said so far is like this. In order, this is Torah Yud, Purim Torah. In order for the whole world to be on to Hashem, that they should all know Hashem, what needs to happen is that tefillah needs to become accessible. It needs to become desired. It needs to become comfortable. It needs to feel like home for the world. When tefillah gets to the point that it feels like home for the world, that necessary, that accessible, that comfortable, then there's going to be geula, redemption, Rabbi Nachman says. Now, in order for that to happen, though, we need to return tefillah back to its rightful owner, its rightful place. We know that in the Gemara it says that Hashem loves, desires the prayers of tzaddikim, which is to say, not just on the pshat that Hashem loves when people, so to speak, have elevated themselves so much and sacrificed so much in order to connect to Hashem and help others do so. He wants to hear their prayers. But that even the part inside of every single Jew he wants to hear from is the tzaddik inside of him. He wants to hear the tzaddik, period. That's the only tefillah he hears, is that of tzaddikim. Even when any Jew prays, it's that part of him that's called the tzaddik that's praying. Okay? Now what happens though, is that Rabbi Nachman says that there are people who, because of their lack of humility and because of their desire for self-promotion and for prominence and for ego-driven motivations, and even though it seems innocent and they mean well, they will not only not go to these tzaddikim to learn how to pray, to access that tzaddik within themselves, they will also discourage others from doing so. And in effect, Rabbi Nachman says what ends up happening is they actually prolong the entire exile of the Jewish people. Because in order for the Geula to take place, tefillah needs to become like home for us. And that's not going to happen until we bring the Shekhinah, meaning tefillah, back to the tzaddikim and the tzaddik inside of us. Now, how do we get rid of this arrogance? If this is the only barrier, so to speak, that's preventing from now until Mashiach coming is this one thing that's called godly, arrogance. How do we remove this? How do we overcome? So now listen to the words of Rabbi Nachman. Hashem, please connect us to all the true tzaddikim who are alive today, all the true tzaddikim who are buried in the earth, including Moshe Rabbeinu. And our Rabbi Nachman Fegazal, the Nachal Naveh Mekor Chochma.
Interesting you mentioned that. There's the mountain, the forest, and the home.
Mountain, the field, and the home.
Right. Those two things are ownerless. The mountain and you said that you have to service it with everything that you have. Home is mamish something that you have. You don't have a mountain. You don't have a field.
Beautiful.
You have to work for it to get it.
Oh,
So that's the hardest part.
Oh. So we have to work to own to feel it. And you know who says this? Chaim Vital. That in the final generation, the main avoda of the Jewish people will not be learning Torah. It will be tefillah, he says. We have to go earn tefillah, to go make it our home. However, we're going to see that there's something which is preventing us from making tefillah our home. And even though we think it's because we don't think Hashem's listening, even though we think it's because we feel that people don't support us, even though we think it's because I have too many difficulties and trials and tribulations in my life to open my mouth. However, Rabbi Nachman is going to say that the real reason why a person cannot make tefillah their home is because they still have arrogance. And it's very, very subtle, but it's very, very vicious. And it's a huge, huge klipa. The main solution to lavatal hagava, to nullify this gava, the gava of those people who are preventing us from going to real tzaddikim to learn how to pray, and that gava which is very subtle, which is very, very minute maybe, but is hidden inside of us, that is preventing us from going to the tzaddik inside of us, from going to the tzaddik to be able to learn how to pray and to own it, to make it our home. Shehu avodah zarah. The reason why gava is such a detriment to praying is because gava, says Rabbi Nachman, is avodah zarah mamish. What does avodah zarah mean? Avodah zarah means I have invested in, I believe in, I worship things which have no reality in and of themselves.
Like anger? That is what
Anytime that I invest in something, some type of reality, that something is, so to speak, have power over me. When I believe that, and it's not Hashem, I'm entering into the realm of strange worship, right? False investments, okay? Now, here's the interesting chiddush that Rabbi Nachman is saying, if you think about it, gava is the same thing. Why? Because to the degree in which that I believe in the importance of myself, of my ego, to that degree, I have nullified the reality of Hashem in my life. And to the degree in which I have made Hashem important to me, and I have, so to speak, been able to recognize his vastness, his infiniteness, to that degree, I myself have become batel, nullified.
also the person that I'm angry at, I now acknowledge his yesh, his existence.
Okay.
Meaning, I'm taking Hashem's existence away and I'm placing it with this person.
That's exactly what we're saying. That's exactly what we're saying. So we're saying that the whole concept of arrogance, meaning that I'm bound up with myself. Because I'm bound up with myself, whenever I am bound up with myself, I cannot be bound up with Hashem. They don't go together. And because we're pushing out Hashem, that is called avodah zarah. Because in a very, very, very subliminal way, when I get angry at somebody else, I am actually invested in myself. And if I'm invested in myself, that's called strange investments. Shekatuv toavat Hashem kol gava lev. Like it says, Hashem considers those who have arrogance of the heart to be an abomination. These words are so scary to me. Hashem doesn't like you.
Even a minute amount.
Nothing. Why isn't Hashem like it?
Because you're investing
Because
yourself
it's
somewhere
not
else.
real, and we know that Hashem's whole stamp is truth. Why else doesn't Hashem like it?
You're investing yourself into something else.
In something else. And why did Hashem create the world?
He created
get
it
to know.
solely
So that you should know Him, so that He can give you
all the pleasure.
all the good.
all of it.
And what is that good? It's Himself.
Wow, so you're substituting things, meaning limitations, and you're calling that good, as opposed to something that's unlimited, and you're calling that not good.
You're automatically, when you're investing in ego, you are eliminating Hashem's ability to move into your life and to give you good. And Hashem doesn't like this, because then you have distorted the purpose of your whole creation. You're not allowing Hashem in to give you that good. Ha'ikar hu al yadei. Now, how do we nullify this? This part within us, this part within the world. You ready? Ha'ikar. The essence is ayadei hitkarvut latzadikim. Oh, it's the answer for everything. But if you only know, it really is.
We say tzaddikim. He's right now, this generation is the only tzaddik. But I mean, is there any other tzaddikim?
There's other tzaddikim. There's always tzaddikim in every generation. There always has to be at least 30 according to one opinion, 36 according to another opinion, 72 according to very deep Kabbalah, 36 in the land of Israel, 36 in Chutz La'aretz. There's always real tzaddikim in every generation. However, if you mamish just have very intense hikashrut with Rabbeinu Zal, you automatically have attachment to all the tzaddikim. You automatically have attachment to all of them. Kamuma b'tikuni mazohar. In the Tikuni Zohar, it says, "Bitrua deihu rucha," with a trua shofar blast, which is the ruach itavir el acher. It blows away foreign gods. The trua blast. What's the difference between the trua blast of the shofar and other blasts?
It's more longer.
No.
It's,
The trua is.
oh, that's cool. It's broken.
It's broken.
Oh, so
Oh, very good. So now we can understand what is the secret here. With brokenness, this is real ruach. And then the other God disappears. It is the brokenness itself which creates the wholeness of having Hashem in your life. That as long as a person is not broken, then automatically they have made themselves God. Okay?
brokenness causes that.
Brokenness. Now listen. I heard a story of Rav Yaakov Meir Shechter from Rav Mansur, that he was by him. He has a lot of reverence for him. And he said he was by him for Purim one year. And he's like, I'll never forget this experience of seeing him on Purim. And, he only speaks in Yiddish. And he said, I just remember him. He was like
Bugging out.
crazy drunk. And he's screaming to all the Hasidim that are surrounding him, Ruach! Ruach! What's more powerful in the world than Ruach?
When did you hear that? Because it said this morning.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. What was he talking about? He was explaining that you have a tornado, it comes in, it breaks everything, breaks all the trees. Nothing can stop it. Your mamish can't stop it. There's no force in the world that can stop Ruach. Nothing can stop Ruach. So now, what is the Ruach that Rav Shechter is speaking about on Purim? What is this unstoppable force that can break everything, including arrogance? V'tzadik hu b'china rucha. The tzaddik is the Ruach. The tzaddik emet is the Ruach.
He's also the nefesh and the
neshama. He is the trua. He is that thing that breaks all things which are false. He is the one who breaks down the lies in the world, because he is mamish ruach, and there's no stopping it.
He's also called the thunder.
He's also called the thunder. He's called many things, but the aspect that we're getting out now, and we're going to see, is the ruach. That it's his ability to be ruach that allows arrogance, both not just, and we have to make sure that we understand that Rabbi Nachman's teachings always apply to the prat as well as the klal. That even though he might be speaking about Rishayim and that they're arrogant and they're causing that the exile should prolong longer, but he wants you also to look inside yourself and understand that what's causing your exile is also the arrogance inside of you. And it's the tzaddik himself, it's the ruach itself that breaks that. And this is why he karvu to the tzaddik is the most essential thing. Because without the tzaddik, you cannot break your ego. Now, what's the simple reason for this? As soon as you have hikarvut with the tzaddik, as soon as you have hikashrut with the tzaddik, you're automatically, even subconsciously, or in a way which is not explicit but implicit, you are saying, proclaiming, somebody is greater than me. Somebody is wiser than me. Somebody has more answers than me. Somebody is more knowledgeable than me. Somebody is greater than me. And as soon as you make that statement, you automatically have eliminated the majority of all of your arrogance.
Yeah, but I feel like that could be the root of your arrogance also.
How's that?
Because you could feel like you have something that other people don't, and you have something to, so to speak, have all above other people.
Meaning that you're connected to him.
Meaning I know, so to speak, people that are connected to Rav Nachman, so to speak, connected to him, and they always use the fact that they're connected to him as a way to feel like they're better than others.
So this is for sure. And anybody who's really connected to Rabbi Nachman is the dust of the earth. If you meet anybody who has real hikash with Rabbi Nachman and he thinks that he's something, he doesn't have hikash with Rabbi Nachman. It's not true. It's impossible. This is what this story is teaching me. Anybody who has real hikash with real tzaddikim, they see reality very clearly.
Or with people themselves, like you could just tell by how they are, if they have a yesh, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, but I'm saying, like, how do we see that just by the with the tzaddik, you have this guy take it out of you, but sometimes we see people that do have this.
So then they don't. That's
don't
what
have
I'm
the
telling
true.
you. They don't have it.
Even though they do everything that he says. So.
Yes.
How long does it take when you connect to the tzaddik to actually?
Google it, my friend.
We're gonna see.
Takes timeline.
What's the time? What do we pay? What's the sentence here?
As long as it
Okay.
takes.
Moshe Katu. Where do we know that the tzaddik represents ruach? Because Moshe Rabbeinu himself, that when Hashem told him, you're not going to bring the Jewish people into the land of Israel. Can you imagine? I mean, like the more that I'm learning and the more that I'm doing after everything and like over and you hear him, it's just hard to fathom what he was possibly thinking like at that moment. That Hashem took him out of his life to bring him to do this and give everything he had to these people. And at the very end to say, by the way, you're not going to do it. It's unbelievable. But we're going to see why in a second. What was the deeper reason why he wasn't able to get in? And now in his stead, because Moshe was so humble and because he cared so much about the Jewish people, much more so than himself. So what was his first thought? Please make sure that the person who replaces me, Ish Asher Ruach, that this person has Ruach. That Moshe Rabbeinu was requesting to Hashem that his successor, who would ultimately be Yoshua ben Nun, would have Ruach, like he had Ruach. Now, what's interesting about Yoshua, that it's clear from Chazal, and even from the Torah itself, there was no yesh whatsoever. He sat by the tent of Moshe Rabbeinu. He used to pick up the books and put them back in. He thought nothing of himself.
Simply.
And because he revered Moshe Rabbeinu so much and had such hikashrut with Moshe, he was able to have his own ruach by knocking out his own ego. And for this reason, Yoshua ben Nun was the one who was able to take us into the land.
Because he had the quote unquote most hikashrut to the tzaddik, and by doing so, like Nassim to Nachman,
Very good.
he got rid of his
Ego completely, and he was able to bring the geula.
Even if, say, theoretically, I'm in trouble. Like for example, let's say I'm in a substance abuse clinic or whatever. If I just theoretically do whatever Nachman tells me to do, and Mom is just do it, then
Rabbi Nachman says you're going to get better. You're going to get better. You know what's amazing? And how many similarities, besides the Torah, the sixth Torah in the Moharan, where Rabbi Nachman hinted to Rabbi Natan that they have this Moshe and Yoshua ben Nun type of relationship. But you see, even in Rabbi Nachman's students, he had many different types of students. Some of them were mamash Talmidei Chachamim, that they knew Gemara, Shas, they knew Poskim, Kol. They knew the whole Torah, Baal Peh. And yet, and you had other people, like Rav Yitzchak, that he could do mamish for 24 hours straight. Intensely. Intensely, and only come back the next day. And yet Rav Natan, who didn't necessarily, he wasn't the smartest of all of them. He didn't have like the same endurance as all of them. He didn't have that same, let's say, extraordinary feature in any way. Yet he was the one who makabeled everything that Rabbi Nachman said, more than anybody else. And what was the reason? The same exact reason why Yoshua ben Nun got everything from Moshe.
He also wasn't like so.
Also, exactly. Chazal say that Yoshua, there was nothing special about him. They literally say it. There was nothing unique about him. He had no extraordinary quality at all. It was just the fact that he completely bottled himself to Moshe, that he got all of Moshe. To the extent that the Torah has a question because it talks about Moshe still being alive, even though when they did the math after, Chazal said he already passed away. So the Gemara comes out, it says, because as long as Yoshua was alive, it literally was mamash like Moshe was still alive.
Wow.
Because he had so received everything from him, and that was his whole being, his whole essence. So Rav Natan said, when he got to Rabbi Nachman, he said, even though I had a little bit, and he was being very modest, he actually knew more than all of us combined in many lifetimes. Okay? When he got to Rabbi Nachman, he said, even though I knew a little bit, he knew everything. Yeah. And what is little or a lot, or even in the face of everything, it's nothing. And he just bottled himself. I'm going to start new.
I feel like that concept where I know a lot versus everything is a certain moment in a person's life. It's like that thing that just like an epiphany, that switch, that something just clicks in you. And you mamish have like so many revelations all at once. It's kind of like an outer body experience where you realize like, oh my God, then you snap back into reality. I was bugging out my whole life. I have to like completely get it amazed. When is that tipping point? When does a person?
For everybody, it's different. And it's a big schut of the Rebbe. You should know it's a big schut of the Rebbe. The Rebbe himself is very involved in this whole process. So,
because it is an outer body experience. If you want to get to the point of no yesh, you can't have a body for it.
It's mamash merit. It's mamash merit, and for sure, it's you're leaving your body at that moment. Okay. Now listen to what he says here. What happens when you have this tzaddik who has the ruach inside him? Automatically, arrogance is nullified. Automatically, el acher, that this foreign God is gone. V'naseh ma'acher echad. And you turn acher into echad. We know that Chazal say that when you say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, the Dalet is very big. Why is the Dalet very big? Anybody know? The Dalet is very big because you might read it like a Reish, because they look just like each other. The only difference between the Dalet and the Reish is the dot in the back. That little tiny dot. Little tiny dot.
Little yesh.
No, it's the opposite. Yeah. No, it's good. It's good. It is the little tiny dot, which looks like a little bit of yesh, but it actually symbolizes the opposite. That the reish symbolizes yesh, and the dalet symbolizes humility, symbolizes nothingness, symbolizes the moon that has nothing of its own. The dalet. Okay, 1 second. Now listen. Listen to what the Likutey Zohar says. Rabbi Nachman now brings the Tikuni Zohar, and he says, Kihu kotza the od dalet, that this od dalet, shemenu arba ruchot, what is it? This is the tzaddik. That the little tiny dot on the back of the reish that makes it a dalet is the tzaddik himself. So the whole difference between having acher and having echad is the tzaddik. That if you don't have the true tzaddik in your life, you automatically Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Acher, something else, which myself. This Tikuni Zohar.
Because you're basically living life the way you think it's proper.
Exactly.
Acher, it implies that more than one.
More than one. Very good.
Mashur Khair is literally something. In other words, something else has to.
That's
exist.
right. That's right.
So
Very
all
good.
these people are just learning Gemara and Shulchan Aruch. I just no, I'm not stuck about it. I'm just saying all these people that are learning all this, they're not connected to any tzaddikim. So what?
That's not true. The tzaddikim are in the Gemara themselves also. And also, there are tzaddikim in our generation. There are real tzaddikim. Now, does that mean that everybody who learns Gemara is learning for the right reasons? Does that mean that everybody who's learning like it? No, there's for sure not. And this is why the Baal Shem Tov got into so much trouble, is because he was the first one after a very long time to say, hey, listen, he actually came out and he said, you need to love every single Jew, no matter what. You need to love the simple person, even though he doesn't really know Hashem. And you need to love the Talmidei Chachamim, even though they're usually arrogant.
Wow. And it's not even their fault. They just makes them like that.
It makes you like that, Rabbi Nachman says, when you're not learning for the right reasons. But your only ability to learn for the right reasons is if you're connected to real tzaddikim. This is the whole inyan of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov, one of his biggest chidushim, so to speak, was this bringing of the Zohar and Tikkuni Zohar into reality that makes the point of the tzaddik so essential in our lives, that the difference between, so to speak, as Rabbi Nachman says, aping, acting, mimicking that of a very kosher Jew and actually being one is the tzaddik himself. It's based on Kabbalah, it's based on the sphere of Yesod and how it gives over and mashpiyas shefa over to malchut, and there's a lot of different inyanim that go into it, but then they made it a reality, and that's why there's always a rebbe, there's a tzaddik, and it's this ability that allows you to become truly humble.
And even though they're not always tzaddikim.
Interesting. It's just a side note that food, any type of food package, whether water or whatever it is, has some repair in it, and if not, it wouldn't be able to do some type of way.
Yeah.
Listening to a shiur.
Everything is ruach. You just mute them. Shemenu al rucha. From the tzaddik comes all four winds. Come the tzaddik comes all four ruchot. Kamoshe Katuv. Like it says, Kol Hashem me'arba ruchot boya ruach. It says, thus says Hashem, come from the four winds, O ruach. Meaning that the ruach is the source of all the four winds. Meaning, the zelashon trua. This is the concept of the trua blast. Lashon traim b'shevet barzel, like it says in Tehillim. Break them with the rod of iron. Okay, what is the concept of breaking? Breaking is the same lashon as trua, that of the shofar blast. The whole entire ikr of the tzaddik is that he's like a shofar, and he breaks all things which are filled with air, and that he fills it with the ruach of the tzaddik himself, which is to remove all the air that's there and to bring you one with Hashem. Now, interestingly as well,
So to speak, is the gava.
right? Rabbi Nachman brings elsewhere that in this Tehillim, you see barzel, the word for iron, that he breaks them with an iron rod, which is speaking about David HaMelech, or the Mashiach, actually. The commentaries explain how he's going to break all of the people who are, so to speak, interfering with the exile, which we're now learning are those people who are arrogant. He does it with this shevet barzel, with this iron rod. So Rabbi Nachman explains elsewhere that barzel is an acronym for all of Yaakov's wives: Bilhah, Rachel, Zilpah, and Leah.
You heard?
Why?
Why? Metal rods.
Because the only way to get to tefillah, which is represented by Yaakov's wives, is through the breaking of arrogance. Because we said, how do we make, what's the way we're going to have Geula? We're only going to have Geula when tefillah becomes like a home.
Right.
And Rabbi Nachman says, what's getting in the way of tefillah becoming like a home for a person? It's arrogance.
Like we said, the brothers with Yosef.
Right.
Why does arrogance prevent you from praying?
Because you know all the answers. You don't need
to.
Right.
Or,
That is our balance.
right. And
Why is
we're,
that arrogant?
oh, so this is what we're going to see.
Who the hell are you?
Maybe it's a different problem, but what are those arrogance per se?
So it's a good question. Ki hu mishaber ruach gavoha. It breaks this spirit of arrogance, el acher, this other God, kafirut, because arrogance and atheism is one thing.
If you don't believe in the tzaddik, it's also arrogance.
Yeah,
Because you believe you know everything.
It's a form of atheism.
yeah.
Yeah, because we said what is
The
arrogance?
Rambam brings that when people worship other gods besides Hashem, he says it's atheism. He calls it atheism.
But atheist means you don't believe
In any God, right? And this is the chiddush of Rabbi Nachman.
No,
That it's
not
this,
that you believe in a different God.
that
You just
belief
don't
in a different God is believing not in God.
Because you're believing in a lie. What's the difference between you and an atheist?
And what it's all rooted in? Arrogance. So now, you ready? This is the whole, we go back to the beginning. Where does the hand clapping and the dancing come in? We referenced in the very beginning. Where did it go? It got so gloomy with all this arrogant stuff. Where is the happy stuff? Where's
Right
the
here.
Purim stuff?
Right here.
Oh.
Wow.
The hamchat.
Kaf.
This is the concept of kaf. Right, very good. This is the concept of dancing and clapping your hands.
Favorite thing to do.
Kirakudin v'chama'at kaf, because dancing and clapping your hands, nimshachim b'chinat haruach shebalev. A person only claps and dances when he has ruach in his heart. When is it that a person decides that he wants to clap or dance? He must be happy. Where is the happiness located in? Like we learned in the fifth Torah, Likutey, in your heart. So it must be that you're happy. That happiness he calls ruach. Meaning, again, he's saying another chiddush.
Wow, that's why if you're happy and you know it's not your
Yo, I was about to say that you give me 1 second to it. It literally says me happy.
But
You know,
sometimes you're
I can't wait when I go to Israel. They're going to be like, what did you learn from David? You're happy, you know it.
I look at a
Friggin' hands.
But sometimes a person feels depressed and sad,
Yeah.
and he says, "You know what? I want to be in a state of happiness, so I need to clap to get myself."
And how does he do that? He must first.
You have to force yourself.
But how do you force yourself to clap when you're sad?
It's so difficult.
How do you do that, though? How can a person do that?
nullify.
Oh, because he's nullifying himself to the eights of the tzaddik who tells him to do it anyway.
This act is literally, I don't want to, I'm doing it anyway.
So
I'm
we're
looking
gonna-
like that and screaming out,
I've done that.
And so I'm doing this. So
It's
what am I
great, but
doing?
the goal is to want.
I'm already on the path to getting better because the whole cause of sadness
Is ego.
is ego.
But isn't that temporary relief?
So this is the whole point. The essence of the act of the clapping is that I've nullified my own self-understanding of my life because my understanding of life has led me to not wanting to clap.
That's the
Rebbe
healing.
Nachman tells me I have what to be happy about. And I am accepting that without understanding why. I have nullified my ego in that moment and I'm already on the path to recovery.
Maybe that's,
and that's why you feel so much better when you do that.
Wow. Remember that question that I had about why do people clap after concerts and performances and all that? Because during the whole thing, nobody had yesh.
Yeah, nullified.
And they all clap at
So
the
they're
very end.
besimcha. That's the whole point.
Wow.
The joy is not coming from the music. The joy is coming from bittul.
That means any type of simple comes from bittul then.
All good things only come from bittul. Yesh is the cause of all negative emotions. All
And
anger comes from yesh.
and that's
All
why-
sadness comes from yesh. All anxiety comes from yesh. When there's no yesh, there's only good. And this is a paradox. Once you let in nothingness, you get everything. As long as there's yeshness, there's somethingness, you cut off from everything.
So that's why Hashem in the beginning created nothing from something, because this is the inyan of creating.
Something from nothing.
I love it.
Benny,
The fire.
Yo.
you hear?
I'm blown
I
away.
promise you it's because of the eating.
This is why Hashem created the world something from nothing, because that's how you create yourself, because you don't exist yet until you make yourself like nothing. And when you make yourself like nothing, then Hashem can create something. Beautiful, baby.
So you give Hashem the opportunity to be a real creator, because a real creator can make it from nothing.
No, you are called Hashem in that moment because you're supposed to emulate him.
But you're doing the opposite in a way. You're making nothingness, so to speak. You're creating a space for him to be able to be a creator and a realized potential. Not just we say he's a creator, but when he's a creator really? When he creates something from nothing. That's rooted in a different lesson. But
Very good, Avram. Okay. So now listen to this. Kanir Bachush, we could see this Pashut with our own eyes. Clear evidence, observable evidence, science. Because when a person's happy, he dances and he claps his hands. I'm telling you, even before I reviewed the lesson day, before I came here, I did it today. It was so weird. I pray so much to Hashem, please help me to have this simcha that Rabbi Nachman speaks about. This real simcha, this mamish, you just want to clap and dance and sing, and there's no reason why. Help me to get to that point, mamish, that I feel that. Mamish, today I had that experience. I was learning in the Beit Knesset or the Beit Midrash, and I came to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom. I came out. I said, Asher Yatsa, and I don't know what came over me. I got so excited and I just started clapping. It just mamish like a ruach came over me. And what happens, you should know, whenever you learn any Torah of Rabbi Nachman and Moharan, you will see that Torah take place in your life. I'm telling you, it's the craziest thing in the world. Whether you're learning about like what we're learning about now, or in another Torah where you learn about something completely different, you will see it. You're gonna see it. You're gonna see it. It's crazy. Okay.
But what about when a person's simcha today versus the simcha that he has an hour from now, or 2 hours from now, or even tomorrow?
Okay.
It's different simcha. It's not the same.
Yeah.
Is that simcha that I had for the first day, and this, we know it's different, right? But do I now have to do teshuva on the simcha that I had for this day? Because I was mamish the simcha on what I thought was the highest level, but now on day 2, it was like something that was mamish unbelievable. I'm like,
100%.
so then basically, but there's teshuva even for being besimcha. Is the
Because the
simcha that I had previously
is coming from the breaking of the ego. So if I'm getting to a higher level of simcha, it must be that I got to a higher level of humility. That means that I have what to do teshuva on.
So if somebody hurts your feelings, is that considered yesh?
Yeah.
How?
What do you mean how?
No, I'm saying like how is the mechanism that functions?
You just use mathematical language in that place that I'm not sure. It's a what was that called? No, whatever. Okay.
parallelogram.
Yeah. Parallelogram. If somebody hurts your feelings, it's because you have feelings about something specific that you feel that something should be a certain way. Your feeling that something should be a certain way is rooted very, very subtly in arrogance.
Right, like the thing we learned on Tuesday, that how do you have the most confidence is when you have no yesh. When you have no yesh, you have all the confidence in the world because Hashem is the one in charge of everything. But if you yourself feel some type of way, you're actually giving yourself a lesser chance to have confidence. You know, like
So this is the chiddush of the Baal Shem Tov, that self-confidence problems come from self.
Wow.
The reason why you have self-confidence problems is because you're invested in yourself. However, if you could divest yourself from yourself, then you just have confidence. There's no self, just confidence.
And it's unlimited.
And it's unlimited. The whole concept of self is it's limiting. That's why you have confidence problems. And that's why in our generation, we have more self-confidence problems than ever in history. Why didn't they have self-confidence problems 1,000 years ago? They were just as whack as we are.
Right, fat.
Yeah, the same thing. It was always the situation, but they didn't have the same low sense of self-confidence. But they didn't think about themselves so much back then. They weren't as concerned back then. Now, because everything in the generation, is revolving around yourself.
So what if the person doesn't think about themselves? What if the person doesn't think about himself but still has like no confidence or like fear?
So then you still have it's still rooted in self. It can't be. It's still rooted in self.
Anytime there's a feeling of negativity, it's coming from ego. It's coming from a place of I am somebody or something or someone.
You gotta get it out of your head.
Okay. The high rucha comes and he brings another tikkun Zohar. Bahai rucha, this ruach, nashiv b'shit pirkin didroa ushit pirkin dishokin. The ruach blows in the 6 sections of the arms and the 6 sections of the legs. The upper arms, the forearms, and the hands. The 2 thighs, the 2 calves, and the feet. Okay. What is it that's causing it? So we know that what's causing it is the happiness. We're saying happiness comes from the heart. So the Zohar is saying that it is the ruach of the heart, which is now connecting to simcha, which comes from the humility, the attachment to the tzaddik. That's what's blowing into the hands and feet. Meaning the tzaddik, the heart, the leiv, he's blowing into your hands and feet to dance. How is he blowing into your hands and your feet to dance? Because he's crushing your ego.
Wow.
And that's the ruach that's coming from the heart that's allowing you to dance. Whereas prior to the attachment to the tzaddik, you're sad. Why are you sad? You're thinking it's because I'm neba. That's why I'm sad. But the real reason is because there's yesh.
What if there's a certain pain in a person, like specifically directed to one area of his body? Does that mean that one area of his body has a yesh type of thing? Wait, and because that area has a yesh, Hashem wants you to fix that specific area?
I mean, for
You know
sure.
what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I don't want to go there. This is
Very deep.
no, yeah, and all the Arizal speaks about it that for sure every single body part is connected to another mitzvah. Obviously, if the person's not holding in that mitzvah, there's a yesh in that place. So, but we cannot. It's dangerous to be in that world because then you will start to judge things and you may not know what you're talking about, and then you might say something to them and you might be wrong, and then you might call them to go into yeyush about it. So it's best thing to do is
Bring them here.
Hikashu to the tzaddik, and then everything's going to get taken care of. You don't have to worry about it, okay? This is the aspect of clapping and dancing. His heart was lifted, his feet. What does that mean? When Yaakov Avinu was gonna go down to Lavan, actually. Okay. And Hashem promised him, I'm gonna bring you back to Eretz Yisrael. I'm going to bring you back to the land of Israel. It said that his heart carried his feet.
Who, by Lavan?
Yeah. What does it mean? He was happy because he knew he had a guarantee one day he would return to the land. This joy of tiding in his heart, he felt it when he came to the house of Lavan, and it gave him the confidence and security he needed for overcoming his uncle who was, yeah.
Didn't Avram have that also when he went to go get the wood early in the morning?
Yeah.
It says his feet literally took him there?
Yes. So you have this concept of avodah zarah. That's what his uncle. So how was he able to get through his uncle, the avodah zarah? It was through the simcha from his heart that came from his humility. And we also know that Eretz Yisrael, it says, and even in the Pasukim in Tehillim, that the land is inherited by the meek.
The mink?
The meek, not the mink.
Like Meek Mill?
You're like, what coat? Which one do I need to get to the land?
Rabbit skin.
The meek. What does meek mean?
Meek means
Like I'm making a meager living.
Impoverished.
yeah, I'm impoverished. I'm meek. I'm humble. I'm nothing.
Meek and meager is synonymous.
Yeah. I'm lacking. This is to be meek. Okay. Those who are lacking are going to inherit the earth. So he said, I promise you, you're going to get back to the land of Israel. Meaning you're going to have the humility needed to get back to the land. And that's how he was able to overcome lava.
Is that why laziness is like a avodah zarah?
Yes. That's why Rav Natan says that
Alacrity?
yeah, comes from Amunah. Because Amunah is the opposite.
Well, what if a person needs to go to work? Like, let's say, for example, I'm going to use myself as an example. I don't want to wake up, but I have to because I need to go make money. Right? How does a person know if he's waking up because he has a Amunah, or if he's waking up because if I don't make my bread and butter today, whatever, you know?
So again, when a person like really truly has Amunah, then even when he goes to work, there's no difference for him between that and anything else. He doesn't see it as a separate entity, as like getting in the way. When a person has real Amunah, which takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of self-development and reflection, it takes a lot of patience. and he casts you to the tzaddik. But ultimately, if you ever acquire this real thing called the Emunah Shlema, then you know that everything is whatever Hashem wants it to be, and that makes you very happy.
It's so simple, but it's so hard. But it's so simple.
You know, Rabbi Nachman says that the world considers Emunah to be a very, very small thing. But I'll tell you that it's the biggest thing.
It's a very huge thing within
It's
itself.
the biggest thing.
Everything.
He says
It's literally
one second. So listen to what he said. What does he mean by that? Everybody holds Emunah as a big thing. But you're going to see that, so to speak, once a person has acquired Emunah, meaning, what do you mean? I know God exists. Now I have to go learn Gemara. Now I have to go. Rabbi Nachman is saying there's no such thing. It's Emunah, and then it's Emunah, and then it's Emunah, and then it's Emunah. And this is why you see that this is the whole entire essence of Rabbi Nachman's students, what they're constantly teaching us, what they're giving over to us. It's Emunah, 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 because Rabbi Nachman says, it's not just that it's not a small thing. It's everything. Emunah is everything. And he says, where can you learn real Emunah from? No. He says, you can learn real Emunah when you go into a Beit Knesset and you see those very, 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 very old, very simple people that don't know any Torah, and they have such Emunah. They come here every day, and you see that they have that like the Bukharians, like the old Bukharians.
Where can you find people like that?
I never understood.
One second.
Where can you find people like that?
1 second. Or he says, like women and little children.
See, I don't get that because those old people, whatever it is,
Yeah.
they obviously they believe God. They have this simple faith that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if something happens to them, they're gonna get frustrated just like the other guy. You understand?
We're not talking about those people. There are older people that you mamashi in shuls, especially in Israel.
Yeah, they're sitting there all day fixing books, bro, gluing books together.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing here? You know what I
And
mean?
they're happy. They're fine.
I'm good. I just have a little bit.
Imagine
of
if you were
box
doing
and
that.
that'd be good.
That all day you were gluing books. You go crazy. Why? What's the difference? You think he's old. There's nothing better to do. It's not that.
It was interesting that father lives in the shul.
Which father?
Both.
Oh,
All
okay.
three of them.
Okay. So now listen to what he says. Hainu. Yedei tzaddik, through the tzaddik, shehu b'china ruach, who's the concept of the ruach, nitbatel hagava. He takes the gava out. Kamo shekatuv. Al tava'eni regel gava. Let not the foot of arrogance come against me. Why the foot? Because we're saying that in reality, once a person has arrogance, it enters into his feet and hands. That's the reason why he can't clap and dance. Because he is self-conscious. In his extremities, very good, because the arrogance reaches down into the extremities. So what is it doing? The ruach is coming out of the heart, meaning out of the tzaddik, and it's flooding into all the extremities, and it's pushing out all of the air there.
Wow. What if I have to flatulate?
You're still on camera. Your wife is watching this. Benit batel avodat, and what are you doing when it's pushing out arrogance? It's pushing out avodah zara. Kamo shekatuv rachatzu raglechem. Like Avraham Avinu, when they came to his house, they washed his feet. Why? Why did he tell them? Why did he wash their feet?
Because he was getting rid of
They're arrogant, so that they can be happy, so they can dance and sing.
And that's how you create converts. Come and wash your feet.
Zeh avodat Elokim. Okay. Ushenit ale haraglin ayeder rakudin. And when the feet are lifted up and dance, bechinat nasa libo et raglav, which is the concept of lifting up his heart is lifting up his feet. Benit batel gava, and nullifies arrogance. Hainu avodah zara, meaning it's nullifying belief, worship of self. This is what nullifies the judgments. Remember we learned in the beginning that clapping your hands and dancing nullifies judgments? The obvious question since the beginning is, how in the world does clapping my hands and dancing nullify judgments?
Because it nullifies yesh.
Oh.
And if you have no yesh, you have no judgment.
Oh, like we have learned in the past.
You can't judge something that isn't something. You can't judge nothing.
You can't judge nothing. What are you gonna do to me? I'm nothing.
That's crazy.
You can't judge nothing.
No, literally, I'm not even there.
Nothing
You
to
can't
judge.
judge me.
So in Shemayim, it's just there's a recording.
Where is he?
We don't see him, and then they all start celebrating.
That's crazy.
Pitzel. Okay.
That's crazy. Oh, I see a little of him.
Okay. Charon off. So listen to what it says here. Very, very interesting. You ready? Because it says in the Sifri all the time that there is avodah zarah in the world. Charon af ba'olam. There's anger in the world, meaning there's judgments in the world. And we're saying that the charon af, anger, is the same thing as yesh, ego. As long as there's ego in the world, there's judgments in the world. Because yesh is limiting, ego is limiting. Dinim, judgments, come from limitations. But if you're bittul, if you're nullified, then there's no dinim, there's no judgments. And this is the reason why we learn in the fourth Torah Likutey Moharan. Why is it that Moshe Rabbeinu is able to nullify the decrees against the Jewish people? Because he has nothing of his own. Because he's nothing of his own. Ushenita ver avodah zarah, and it disappears avodah zarah. Nita ver charonaf, and then all of the judgments in the world is going to go away. V'nimshachin chasadim, and then what happens when the judgments are gone? We know that the chasadim start to flow in. There are two main forces that, so to speak, flow from above: chasadim and gevurot. Chasadim and gevurot. Chasadim represent revelation of the good of godliness. And gevurot represent the limitation, the constriction, the holding back of that good. Now, why is there the dinim in this world? Because this is a world of yesh.
Right.
But we know that when Mashiach comes, whose phone is that? Doesn't exist. Okay. Yeah. That when Mashiach comes and the Yetzer Hara, Satan, is shechted, so there's not going to be dinim in the world anymore. There's only going to be chasadim. But Rabbi Nachman is saying, why wait? Why wait? Remove the dinim now. Bring the chasadim in. Now, very interesting. You guys should know as well, just Kabbalistically speaking, that the five, so to speak, chasadim, these revelations of the good of godliness that come into the world, they're all channeled through the sphere that's called Yesod. All five chasadim are coming through the Yesod, meaning through the tzaddik.
Yesod oilam.
Very good. That all of the revelation of godliness, of good, comes through the tzaddik. And all of the gevur, the dinim, go down to malchut. Malchut comes from the physical world itself. So when I have ikashut to the tzaddik, I'm actually giving myself a chance to push out the dinim, meaning push out my own ego and to let in the chasadim, the revelation of godliness. And this is Geula. And that's why it says in Shmuel, that's why it says in Shmuel, the feet of Chasidav, his pious ones, his Chasidav, meaning the feet of his Chasidim. This corresponds to what it says that the kindnesses, the Chaste of David, are nemamim. They are faithful. Why saying the kindnesses of David are faithful? Because when there is ne'eman, meaning when there is a munah in the truth, when there is echad, when avodah zarah is nullified, then there's the kindnesses.
And Hashem gave David as opposed to Moshe Rabbeinu, who
oh, very good.
Moshe Rabbeinu saw Hashem through
With Nevuah. Very good.
David sees Hashem through Ruach, and we're saying that the whole Indian is the tefillah is the Ruach.
Very good, very good. And what are we saying? That when we make tefillah like a home, that's what's going to bring the Geula. Now, interestingly, who's the one who's going to bring the Geula? Mashiach. And who does Mashiach come from? David. Now, what did David do in his life? What was his whole entire essence?
He sacrificed.
He says, Ani tefillah, I am tefillah. Who made it home more than David? He mamish made it home. He said, I am it. I am tefillah. How did he do that? Because he represents the complete nullification of self. The malchut of Kedusha is complete bitul. And because of that, there were the kindnesses of David that they're faithful, that they're there. They're always there. And through this, heresy and atheism are eliminated, meaning arrogance is taken from the world. And ruach corresponds to hand clapping also.
Because you actually create ruach.
Ki al yedei ruach arata yadayim. You have an emanation of the hands that are revealed. Like the pasuk says in Shir Shirim, kol dodi dofek, that the voice of my beloved, it knocks. The word knocks literally means, dofek means to pulsate. What's pulsating? The ruach. The ruach is pulsating. And this is causing the kol dodi. Because the ruach is pulsating in the Jewish people. Now my beloved, the Jewish people, Hashem is saying, my beloved, now I hear their voice. Because it's dofek. Meaning now that they have eliminated their yesh and they have let the tzaddik take care of that part of themselves, now they're dofek. They're pulsating.
Is it possible for a simpleton to reach Betul?
Is it possible? Rabbi Nachman says the only way to achieve bitul is through kashrut to the real tzaddik. So he could if he is.
When you say in real
These
What about all those people?
What about
Rabbi Kiva had real 24,000
24,000 students?
students. They were connected to him. So how come did he make themselves bitul?
What?
They had one blemish.
According to the Arizal, Rabbi Akiva comes from, and his soul is rooted in the left side. And because his soul is rooted in the left side, which is the side of Dinim, his students, his students as well, because the students are always, so to speak, like the child of the Rebbe, they also were all rooted in Dinim. And as a result of that, they leaned towards Yesh. They were Yeshlim. However, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, says the Arizal, he comes from the side of Chasadim. And his students, his 5 students as well, they also derive from that place. And that's why they were able to makabel the same amount of Torah, in some ways even more than the 24,000 students, because of the love that was between them.
So you switched away, started teaching them? Is that what it?
No, it has to do with the root of their souls.
Rizal did the same thing. He had a
The Arizal
group of
is in
students.
They're called the friends.
Oh, you're reading the room.
Okay. We'll finish this part.
That'd be a good ad, bro.
Someone just give me a time just so I know.
10:35.
10:34.
Wants to say.
Okay. So listen to what he said. This,
I was gonna say, are we gonna have a considered dance session after?
Bezrat Hashem, if we eliminate our atheism during tonight, then we can dance after. And if you think about it, by the way, just on a side note, why is it that, so to speak, kids dance so easily when we get older?
Because they're simple, they have no yay.
Oh, because they're not self-conscious yet.
Wow.
No, they're your son, but it's because they're not self-conscious, because they have not developed.
Why did
any
they fight
sense-
over toys then?
Because it's my
Because your
car.
kids are no.
Good question.
If they have no image, that's means mine.
They have tivas for sure, but they don't have a sense of
They're not tainted. They're pure.
no. But they also no. They don't have a sense of self, meaning that they don't see themselves in relation to the world, and they don't gauge what that is. They teach us in psychology as well. They have no, so to speak, sense of self in relation to anybody else. That's the reason why they demand the toys, because they don't have a concept of you exist. But that also is a concept of that there's no, so to speak, self-consciousness as well. Because if nobody else besides me exists, I don't have to worry about anybody else what they think about me.
It's kind of like just the other from the other side.
It's like the other side.
No self-consciousness by having
When do
only
they stop having
self-consciousness.
Or mitzvah.
When you act right,
No, seriously, when do they stop having it? I feel like it's impossible.
Like, it's your finger probably something.
You know, like you can have the best clinic in the world. You know what I mean?
you have to give me
But at
kashrut to the
but
side.
at the end of the day, like Lamar
It's
say,
gonna take time. It's gonna take time.
You
Psychologically.
sure vitamin slap doesn't work?
Vitamin slap definitely does not work. And you know why? You know, I
Is it
know.
laughing
Because,
says not to?
no, because anyone who gets vitamin slapped also wants to vitamin slap everybody else. Yeah? And what does that mean? Yesh. Still yesh. It's just a transference of the yesh. Okay? You transferred it with the slab, with the vitamin slab. Now it says like this. We find, therefore, that this alludes to my beloved put his hand in through the hole. This is also from Shir Shirim. What's the connection between this? This is the concept of the revelation at hands. The clapping of the hands. This is the nullification of avodah zarah, meaning kafirut. That Moshe Rabbeinu went up to the top of the mountain. We were fighting Amalek, which is where who comes from? Haman. Amalek represents Yesh. Yeah, he represents ego, arrogance. Moshe Rabbeinu was fighting against him. What did he do? He went up to the top of the mountain. He lifted his hands.
But didn't Hashem ask him
Why did he lift his hands?
Hashem asked him not to do that though.
Because hands are emunah. But how was he able to do that?
So why did he get in trouble for
He's
that?
a tzaddik.
If he wasn't allowed to raise
wait
his
a
hands.
second. He also had people holding his hands.
We're going to see in a moment what all this really means. And you see as well who was fighting Amalek below. Yeshua. He was doing this. And Yeshua had his feet on the ground. So we're going to see in a moment how that relates.
So we're called Yeshua?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes. Nimsa. Through the tzaddik, meaning the ruach that's in the heart. That we revealed the hands and the feet of the people. That is, that we reveal dancing and hand clapping. And we nullify arrogance and atheism. And emuna increases and flourishes throughout the world. And then we will makayim the pasuk that it says Ragli amda b'mishor, that my feet stand in an even place. Because feet standing straight is the concept of amuna. Because atheism is the concept of a bent foot. Like Asaf said, kimat natayu raglai, that it says my bent foot, my feet were almost bent. That is the context where his having turned his heart to heresy, to atheism. Ragli amda b'mishur, but his feet being in a standing position, moreh al amuna. This is an indication of his amuna. And then his hands are in the concept of emuna.
Because we said that feet corresponds to emuna, and if he has bent feet, he's lacking in emuna, which means we learned in another Torah that feet corresponds to a wall, which corresponds to parnasa, right?
All connected.
He's weak in his feet, he's weak in his emuna, and he actually has to physically go out and make this, right? Interesting. So theoretically, our body hurting, in any way is really just a lack of emuna. Any type of pain and suffering that a person goes through, any type of pain and suffering, is just a pain and suffering that he just doesn't have emuna in this area.
Maybe.
Oh, well, maybe.
No, I mean there is a physical metziut of pain. We cannot deny that there's a physical metziut of pain. Rabbi Nachman was in pain when he had tuberculosis. It comes from the fact that we're in exile, and in the exile there's limitations of this world. Until the Geula, there's always going to be pain. But when the Geula takes place and Emunah spreads throughout the world, pain will be removed from the world. So Bezrat Hashem, we should have that Moshe Rabbeinu, like the sages teach us, that just like he was the first Redeemer, he will be the final Redeemer. That the final Moshe Rabbeinu should please stand up and reveal himself to the world and bring us back to the land of Israel like he always dreamed to from the beginning, and bring the Geula, bring the redemption, the final one, that there's no other suffering anymore after that. And Bezrat Hashem, it should really, really, really be soon. It should really, really be soon.
Ude.